Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Understanding Our Times, a Crooked Furrow. Still warm tonight, so had to lose the shirt. One of my young friends has started calling these episodes the T-shirt philosopher. I don't know about that, but until it gets a little cooler, that's what it's going to be. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and for everybody who has watched any of the other videos, made comments, etc. The comments are very helpful. Most of them have been made offline, in person, but they're very helpful. We ended off last time talking about Friedrich Nietzsche and the God is Dead movement, and I read something, a personal reflection of how profoundly that affected me at the age of 9. And it really is, Nietzsche really is a good place. The 60s are a very good place to begin to understand our times today. They're a good place to understand this change in worldview, this change from one age to another. What were the 60s about? And Nietzsche, too, is a very good entry point, an inflection point into understanding our times today, because his philosophy was so fundamental. He's significant for several reasons. With the God is Dead movement, he was talking about the death of the Christian God in the heart of the West, and in that he was certainly right. And so he was rather prophetic in that. Nietzsche is also important because his philosophy was influential in Nazi Germany, although people debate if that's a fair connection. I think it is a fair connection. And another philosopher that came after him, Martin Heidegger, was an actual Nazi and used his rather complex philosophy to justify Hitler and the whole Nazi movement. And he saw the Nazis and the political crisis in the West as representative, as parallel, as a representation of a crisis in Western philosophy. So Nietzsche is significant also for his crystallization of the two poles of Greek thought, Greek religion and Greek thought, in the concepts of Apollo and Dionysus. So Apollo and Dionysus are going to represent two principles that we're going to see in ancient Greece that so influenced the development of the West. And also he's speaking about Christ and Christianity. So in Nietzsche, you see all three different worldviews represented. The main worldviews that have informed the Western world. So we're going to go back and look a little closer at Nietzsche and his God is Dead, the writing in Thus Spake Zarathustra. Not today, but we're going to go back to that. We're going to do a lot of going back and circling. I mean, after all, I want to keep these presentations at about 10 minutes. Maybe eventually, if we have the interest, we can go longer and develop an idea. So I have to kind of come to the point and then come back and elaborate later. But the focus of this series of YouTube presentations is about understanding our times. And behind it is the notion that we are in a new age, that we are in new times, that we are in revolutionary new times. And I hope everybody understands that if you have eyes and eyes to see. But we're going to come back to Nietzsche. We're going to come back to the 60s. Again, Nietzsche is very interesting because you can trace him backwards and find the roots of his ideas. And then you can, through him, understand what the 60s were about. And you can, from that, understand where we are today and why we're here. So I've neglected really to talk about worldviews. And at the very beginning, I mentioned that an age is defined by a worldview, and a worldview is a set of ideas A worldview is composed of a set of very specific ideas, identifiable ideas that you can trace, that you can find, and you can see their expression in the highest developments of a culture, in its math, and its science, and its art, and you can see it in its lowest expressions as well. And again, it's based on very specific ideas, and all of those ideas go back to a critical commitment of the heart, a critical understanding of origins, of where we came from, and an understanding of ultimate reality and understanding of God. So that's where we're going. That's where all the talks will be around in understanding our times today. We're going to be looking at ages, the worldviews behind them, and then in detail we will look at the different worldviews and the ideas that comprise them, and the divinity idea, the idea of God upon which they are based. Now, I want to, regarding worldviews, we can come up with some other definitions. This is a very good book, if I can get it up here. It's called The Universe Next Door, A Basic Worldview Catalog by James Sire. Let's see if we can get that up here. This is a very good introduction to worldviews. Now, he talks about 7 worldviews. I'm going to largely be talking about 3. And as I've already